The man who is experiencing reality from moment to moment has no means of communicating that reality. Neither the believer nor the non-believer will find God, because reality is the unknown, and your belief or non-belief in the unknown is merely a self-projection, and therefore not real. Actually, your belief has very little significance, because you believe and exploit, you believe and kill. The rich man also believes in God. He exploits ruthlessly, accumulates money. Reality is what you are, what you do, what you think, and your belief in God is merely an escape from your monotonous, stupid, cruel life. Furthermore, belief invariably divides people. You may bring a few people together in a group, but that group is opposed to another group. Ideas and beliefs are never unifying. On the contrary, they are separative, disintegrating, and destructive. Therefore, your belief in God is really spreading misery in the world, though it may have brought you momentary consolation. In actuality, it has brought you more misery and destruction in the form of wars, famines, class divisions, and the ruthless action of separate individuals. So, your belief has no validity at all. To know that which is immeasurable, which is not of time, the mind must be free of time, which means the mind must be free from all thought, from all ideas about God. All that you know are words, the experiences of others, or some moments of rather vague experience. To know what is beyond time, the process of time must be understood, time being thought, the process of becoming, the accumulation of knowledge. The mind must be free of the known, which means the mind must be completely silent, not made silent. You may succeed for a period of time in forcing the mind to be superficially silent, but such a mind is not a still mind. Stillness comes only when you understand the whole process of thought, because to understand the process is to end it, and the ending of thought is the beginning of silence. Only when the mind is completely silent, not only on the upper level but fundamentally right through it, on both the superficial and the deeper levels of consciousness, only then can the unknown come into being. The unknown is not something to be experienced by the mind. Silence alone can be experienced, nothing but silence. If the mind experiences anything but silence, it is merely projecting its own desires, and such a mind is not silent. When there is the silence which is not a product of effort, then only does the timeless, the eternal, come into being. That state is not a state of remembering. There is no entity that remembers, that experiences. It happens only in a state of freedom, spontaneity, not when the mind is disciplined according to a pattern. Virtue is facing the fact of what is, and the facing of the fact is a state of bliss. Only when the mind is blissful, quiet, without any movement of its own, without the projection of thought, conscious or unconscious, only then does the eternal come into being. There are two facets to memory, the psychological and the factual. They are always interrelated, therefore not clear-cut. Mind is memory, at whatever level, by whatever name you call it. Mind is the product of the past. It is founded on the past, which is memory, a conditioned state. Now, with that memory we meet life, we meet a new challenge. The challenge is always new, and our response is always old, because it is the outcome of the past. I absorb the new, I do not understand it, and the experiencing of the new is conditioned by the past. There is never complete understanding. It is only when there is complete understanding of anything that it does not leave the scar of memory. Our previous experiences are acting as a barrier to the understanding of the new challenge, so we go on cultivating and strengthening memory, and therefore we never understand the new. We never meet the challenge fully, completely. If you understand what has been said, see the truth of it. That truth is not a memory. Truth is ever new, constantly transforming itself. If you understand something completely, that is, see the truth of something wholly, you will find there is no memory whatsoever. Our education is the cultivation of memory, the strengthening of memory. Your religious practices and rituals, your reading and knowledge, are all strengthening of memory. We cannot live in the present because we are using the present as a passage to the future. Because I am going to become something, there is never a complete understanding of myself. And to understand myself, what I am exactly now, does not require the cultivation of memory. On the contrary, memory is a hindrance to the understanding of what is. If you had no memory, your property, your family, your ideas would not be important as such. So, to give strength to me and mine, you cultivate memory. If you observe, you will see that there is an interval between two thoughts, between two emotions. In that interval, which is not the product of memory, there is an extraordinary freedom from the me and the mine, and the interval is timeless. Memory creates yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Memory of yesterday conditions today, and therefore shapes tomorrow. Memory is time, and through time we hope to achieve a result. If you see the truth of that through time the timeless cannot be understood or received, then we can go into the problem of memory. The memory of technical things is essential, but the psychological memory that maintains the self, the me, and the mine, that gives identification and self-continuance, is wholly detrimental to life and to reality. When one sees the truth of that, the force drops away. Therefore there is no psychological retention of yesterday's experience. Yesterday there was no memory, only a spontaneous appreciation, a direct response. Today you are desirous of recapturing the experience of yesterday. We go on, surrounding ourselves and our actions with memory, and therefore there is no newness, no freshness. That is why memory makes life weary, dull, and empty. We live in an antagonism with each other because the me and the mine are strengthened through memory. Memory as psychological retention is detrimental to the understanding of life, the communion with each other. Understanding comes into being when there are right values, when right values are established. For the right values to come into being, you must understand the thinker. If I don't know myself, then my action, my thought, has no foundation whatsoever. Therefore, self-knowledge is the beginning of meditation. Not the knowledge that you pick up from books, from authorities, from gurus, but the knowledge that comes into being through self-inquiry, which is self-awareness. The beginning of meditation is self-knowledge, which means being aware of every moment of thought and feeling, knowing all the layers of my consciousness, not only the superficial layers, but the hidden, deeply concealed activities. To know the deeply concealed activities, the hidden motives, responses, thoughts and feelings, there must be a tranquility in the conscious mind. That is, the conscious mind must be still in order to receive the projection of the unconscious. The superficial conscious mind is occupied with its daily activities, with earning a livelihood, deceiving others, exploiting others, running away from problems, all the daily activities of our existence. That superficial mind must understand the right significance for its own activities and thereby bring tranquility to itself. It cannot bring about tranquility, stillness, by mere regimentation, by compulsion, by discipline. It can bring about tranquility, peace, stillness only by understanding its own activities, seeing its own ruthlessness. When the superficial conscious mind is thus fully aware of all its activities, through that understanding it becomes spontaneously quiet, not drugged by compulsion or regimented by desire. Then it is in a position to receive the intimation, the hints of the unconscious, of the many, many hidden layers of the mind, the racial instincts, the buried memories, the concealed pursuits, the deep wounds that are still unhealed. It is only when all these have projected themselves and are understood, when the whole consciousness is unburdened, unfettered by any wound, by any memory whatsoever, that it is in a position to receive the eternal. If you are not aware of all your responses all the time, if you are not fully conscious, fully cognizant of your daily activities, what you do has no meaning, however noble your intentions are. When there is self-knowledge, there is right thinking, and hence right action. When there is right action, there is no confusion, and therefore there is no supplication to someone else to lead you out of it. A man who is fully aware is meditating. If you really want to know yourself, you will search out your heart and your mind to know their full content, and When there is the intention to know, you will know. Then you can follow, without condemnation or justification, every movement of thought and feeling. We live in the so-called conscious mind, in the upper layer of the mind, and we never pay attention to the deeper unconscious mind, from which there is occasionally an intimation, a hint. That hint is disregarded, perverted, or translated according to a particular conscious demands at the moment. Most of us cling to what the conscious mind has accepted, because the conscious mind finds it convenient to adjust to certain facts. But the unconscious may rebel, and often does, and so there is conflict between the so-called conscious and the unconscious. There is in fact only one state, a state of being which is conscious, always of the past, never of the present. You are conscious only of things that are over. Watch your own hearts and minds, and you will see that consciousness is functioning between the past and the future, and that the past is merely a passage of the past to the future. Either the past is a means of escape from the present, which may be unpleasant, or the future is a hope away from the present. Therefore it is never capable of looking directly and impartially at any fact. It either condemns and rejects the fact, or accepts and identifies itself with the fact. Our thought is the conditioned response to the challenge of a fact. The more you respond according to the conditioning of a belief of the past, the more there is the strengthening of the past. That strengthening of the past is obviously the continuity of itself, which it calls the future. That is our consciousness, which is made up not only of the upper levels of the mind, but of the deeper layers as well. Such consciousness obviously cannot function at a different level, because it only knows those two movements of backwards and forwards. Most of us reject one particular form of conditioning, and then find another form, a wider, more significant or more pleasant conditioning. Such substituting is obviously not understanding life being relationship. Our problem is how to be free from all conditioning. You must be free to inquire and discover. Now, I say it is definitely possible for the mind to be free from all conditioning. Not that you should accept my authority. I say it because for me it is a fact, and I can show it to you verbally, but if you are to find the truth of it for yourself, you must experiment with it, and follow it swiftly. The analyzer who analyzes the thing which he is looking at, is himself part of the conditioned state, and therefore whatever his interpretation, his understanding, his analysis may be, it is still part of the background. To meet the challenge of the new, the mind must be new. To analyze the past, to arrive at conclusions through a series of experiments, to make assertions and denials and all the rest of it, implies in its very essence the continuance of the background in different forms. When you see the truth of that fact, you will discover that the analyzer has come to an end. Then there is no entity apart from the background. There is only thought as the background, thought being the response of memory, both conscious and unconscious, individual and collective. To be free, the mind must not only see and understand its pendulum-like swing between the past and the future, but must also be aware of the interval between thoughts. There is a period of silence which is not related to the thought process. If you observe, you will see that period of silence. That interval is not of time, and the discovery of that interval, the full experiencing of that interval, liberates you from conditioning, or rather, it does not liberate you, but there is liberation from conditioning. So, the understanding of the process of thinking is meditation. When there is only one thing in your life which is an avenue to ultimate escape, to complete forgetfulness of yourself, if only for a few seconds, you cling to it, because that is the only moment in which you are happy. Every other issue you touch becomes a nightmare, a source of suffering and pain, and so you cling to the one thing which gives you self-forgetfulness. The you wants to escape from it. You do not want to be a slave to it, so you invent, again from the mind, the idea of chastity, of celibacy, and you try to be celibate, to be chaste, through suppression, all of which are operations of the mind, to cut itself off from the fact. This again gives particular emphasis to the me, who is trying to become something, So again you are caught. So long as you are ambitious, politically, religiously, or in any way, so long as you are emphasizing the self, the thinker, the experiencer, by feeding him on ambition, whether in the name of yourself as an individual, or in the name of the country, of the party, or of an idea which you call religion, so long as there is this activity of self-expansion, you will have a sexual problem. Your life is a contradiction, emphasis on the me, and forgetting the me. Sex is not a problem. The problem is this contradiction in your life, and the contradiction cannot be bridged over by the mind, because the mind itself is a contradiction. The contradiction can be understood only when you understand fully the whole process of your daily existence. Sex has its place, but when the mind gives it the predominant place, then it becomes a problem. When the mind understands its whole process and comes to an end, that is when thinking ceases. Then there is creation, and it is that creation which makes us happy. To be in that state of creation is bliss, because it is self-forgetfulness, in which there is no reaction as from the self. The mind denies love, and without love there is no chastity. It is because there is no love that you can make sex into a problem.